Hello, thanks for checking out this video. The title of my video today is I feel deep sympathy for Gen Z's lack of sex. And I'm saying this because there's a lot of data and studies that are coming out now that are revealing that Gen Z have significantly less sex than previous generations. And I'm not saying this as a criticism of Gen Z, I'm saying it as an actual, like I have sympathy for them, like I really kind of feel bad for them. So it's not anyone's fault really, it's the culture and the conditions and the technology that we have now that have created a world where it's different. And I'm a 39-year-old millennial, and I've had a pretty long life full of adventures and different things, experiences, and I've had multiple long-term relationships and a very successful short-term dating life. So I've had a lot of experiences with women and multiple relationships that have made me just sort of a happy guy who really likes women, and I don't have any sort of hatred towards women or misogyny or anything. And I like to study the male loneliness epidemic. I like to go on YouTube and I like to sort of watch videos from like red pill manosphere influencers that are just really bitter and like hate women, and then contrast that with watching like female content creators to discuss like the female point of view on things. It's really funny to compare things. One thing that I find really funny is in general, like when I ask like for example, like a lot of women have a hard time finding a good partner, and a lot of them don't want children. When I ask modern women, a lot of the educated ones, like why don't you, like my friends and other people I've met through my social media, YouTube or whatever, like I try to talk to a lot of women, right? And when I ask women that don't want children, like why do you not want children, there's all kinds of like valid reasons that they have. And then if you go and you talk to like a lot of right-wing men about like why women don't want children today, they'll literally be like, it's the Jewish propaganda, they're all brainwashed. It's like, from the men's point of view, women have no opinions of their own or anything. They're just like, they just went to school and were told that, now they don't want to have kids. So it's hilarious that men won't listen to women to like get feedback and understand them. They just project their own weird assumptions onto them, and that's really funny for me as an older guy. Like, it's really obvious. You can kind of infer a lot about a man by his attitude towards women. And if a guy really does, if a guy is sort of a misogynist, like you can infer stuff about that too. Basically, I think that there are sort of like three categories of men. There are like, in a certain way, there are men who are incels and can't get laid, and that makes them hate women. There are also other men that are kind of like, in a way, like not desirable, like Andrew Tate, but they have money and status and a way to toxically sort of get laid all the time, and just paying for sex. So they have a lot of sex, but it's like it's not like sex with women that like them for who they are or anything like that. And then there's a third category of guys that I'm in that women have had sex with because I've never had to lie to a woman or misrepresent myself or anything, and I'm not over 6 feet tall and I don't have a lot of money, but I've never had a problem really throughout my 20s and 30s because I have like a good personality, I'm funny, educated, and more than that. Other stuff I won't get into, but like I'm not a hater, right? And you can definitely like there's issue. I'm gonna make other videos where I kind of critique the left, but in this case, because I'm talking a lot about the male loneliness thing, if you believe in that, I believe that we have a loneliness epidemic going on in society broadly, just as because of people are getting alienated because of capitalism and because of technology, and that's a thing. So I know men and women who are genuinely lonely, and that's bad. But that to me is a separate phenomenon than the other thing I'm talking about. Also, a quick note: being an incel is not. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not something that someone else should criticize somebody for. All men sort of end up at incels at some point, and it's not it shouldn't be a derogatory thing, but I do use it only in a derogatory way towards a certain type of right-wing incel. Because if for some men, they're kind of an incel just because they got a bad hand, and even though they have good personalities, they have an appearance deficit and some other issues, and they're really not like the most attractive person. I feel genuinely bad for these people. And then there's a whole nother class of guys who are incapable of getting a girlfriend or a girl because they just have shitty personalities, and these are the right-wing guys. There's like sour misogynistic guys, right-wing guys, and they deserve to be alone. They should be alone. This is a bigger thing about the evolution of the species. Women have sex selection preference, and I'm basically I don't really use the term because it's a loaded term, and I'd have to elaborate what I mean. But I'm a male feminist, generally speaking. Like feminism is subsumed within a larger philosophy I have of equality. So, in that sense, sure, I'm a feminist, and I like women. And what I mean by that is I think women deserve to have autonomy, and our society should be set up so that all humans, regardless of whatever sex they are, can work and have their own financial freedom and autonomy, and be in control of their own lives. And I think for me, like a good relationship or anything like that, it should be love based. So it should be like two people should come together because they want to make each other's lives better. And what's happening right now, the Gen Z has less sex than ever, and there's a bunch of factors and reasons that I understand, and I really sympathize with Gen Z. I feel bad for them. I'm not really blaming them for any of this because they've just inherited a fucked up situation. But like one is the internet is like basically poison the minds of young men. Like it's just brainwash. The manosphere and all that stuff is such crap, and it's hard to explain that to younger guys. Like, and again, I started this video just thinking existentially about life because again, I'm 39, so I'm like I look really good for my age. So I could go to a bar and hang out with 29-year-old guys and they won't suspect my age. But like mentally, I'm way like more mature than them, as I should be, because I'm fucking almost 40, right? So one thing I can say though is like I basically lost my V card near the end of high school, which was like when I was young, that was kind of like a thing. Like everyone in high school, we were all kind of like, and this isn't necessarily good, but I'm just saying it was like we had our own problems back then, like with toxicity and culture. But like I don't know how many of you guys, if you're younger, have you ever seen American Pie? But sort of losing your virginity by the end of high school is kind of like a milestone when I was young, and I made it with my first high school, like serious high school girlfriend and stuff. So I had friends that lost it way before me. So to give you context, I know a lot of guys now that are like 27, 28, 29 that are still virgins. And for some of them, I just have a lot of sympathy, but some of the other ones, and this is the irony too, these guys are like white guys and they're like 6'2" and clean cut, and they have this sort of, they think of themselves as being very handsome, but ironically, they can't actually get a woman. And then, like, I've lost a lot of friends lately since Charlie Kirk got shot, and I started sharing memes, kind of like, I don't like Charlie Kirk, I'm making fun of him. So there's a lot of friends and acquaintances I used to have that were like right-wing guys have been blowing up on me, like sending me like hate messages and deleting me off social media and all this stuff. So I've been losing a lot of friends from that, right? But before that happened, a lot of these guys I would have conversations with often, they would confide in me stuff. And when people actually do confide in me about personal stuff, I'm a pretty good guy. I don't throw that back in their face. So like a lot of these guys that have told me like go fuck myself and whatever, like I'm not gonna respond by like making fun of anything they told me when we were in private when we were friends. I'm just like, okay. But I do have that insider knowledge because a lot of them have shared it with me. Like they're fucking annoyed because they're using these dating apps and they can't get dates on the dating apps, even though they're like 27 and 6'2" and all this stuff. And I kind of look at it and like on one hand, I understand it totally because like the apps have created like toxic culture has kind of changed both men and women, and there's a lot of like women that now have these artificial standards and all kinds of delusions and stuff. But that's fine. Women can have whatever standards they want. They're women. They're the ones like men. This is another thing I want to say about men. Men have to learn to be happy being alone, or if they can't be happy being alone, they have to adapt to what women want if they want a relationship with them. One issue for a lot of men is like right-wing men have put themselves in a self-inflicted cage because they have all these standards for women that are completely unrealistic for them, and it's just like there's a lot of like bitterness and hatred coming from like right-wing men online and stuff. Like they're misogynists. They genuinely don't like women. And for those of you like because I'm almost 40, I'm mature. I know stuff that might not be so obvious to younger guys just because of the age thing. But if you're watching this and you're like a young guy in your 20s, you might not realize like most men, and especially right-wing men, don't actually like women. Like that's why they're called misogynists. Like they want a girlfriend because men get status from other men by having one. Having a girlfriend or wife in a sense is a status symbol. Like these guys don't want a partner because they want someone to be loving with and to make that person have a better life. And a healthy, loving relationship between two people is two people that are independently healthy and strong that choose to come together and make each other's lives better. That's the kind of way I have it, and that is not the concept with like a traditional relationship. It's, it's a submissive thing where men want to own a woman. The woman should be like subservient to me, and it's about my bloodline, and I need to have kids and all this. It's just fucking retarded, honestly. And I feel bad for them, but like this is not like, so for the right wing male loneliness epidemic is literally just natural selection, and it's necessary. Like women, and this is my message to the female viewers too. Like don't, you get, women need more solidarity and about like dating standards, and in some way that's unrealistic. But actually, the core of women do get this, like the majority, the bulk. That's why feminism is such a thing now, right? Most men are narcissistic, and they view women as objects, and so like I know this from family members I have, but like I'm trying not to just, like, I'm not just projecting things that happened in my own family onto the general public. This is just studying this. Like I read a lot of psych books and stuff like that, and then I have a lot of life experience. So this is a general truism. The typical right-wing man just wants a woman for the status symbol and for their own ego and for those kind of things. And another funny thing, the lack of sex that Gen Z is having comes from a bunch of things. Porn is a big problem. I'm not against all porn in concept. There's a difference between erotica and porn, hardcore porn, and I don't have a problem with erotica, and I've consumed a lot of porn when I was younger, and it didn't like mess me up. But the nature of the system is that like today there's just this most porn is like violent and disgusting, and the problem is like parents are giving their kids cell phones when they're kids, so you have like young girls and boys that are like 10, 11, 12, they're just consuming hardcore porn. Definitely that fucking has an effect on you, in the sense that like it fucking grosses you out. Like a lot of women have, like, I was reading this study, and it was a big survey, like 10,000 women or whatever, and they're analyzing all this data, and a big part of like why a lot of them don't like sex as Gen Z women is like they're grossed out by it. Also a big part is like, for a lot of, like, this is a thing for women a lot of women have one night stands with guys, but in general women like to feel like they have, even if it's like a random guy they meet, they have to feel like they can trust the guy to be vulnerable, to physically to have sex with them. And most guys today, younger guys, are not like, they're making women feel like they're in danger, and this is a problem. Like SA is a big problem, and we do have a problem with the rape culture in the West. 10 years ago, when the woke stuff was getting out of control, if like I had a time machine, I could go back and talk to 30-year-old Alex. 30-year Alex didn't really believe in the rape culture thing. Like, I understood men rape sometimes, but I thought it was way less. And now 39-year-old Alex, I'm like, no, I'm hyper aware of this fucking problem. There are men raping and SAing people all over the fucking place. Powerful people. Like, it's way more. Like, women have a consciousness of this because they're always vulnerable, and like, holy fuck, there are these like predator men all around all the time. But like, a lot of men are naive about this, especially right-wing men that are like, there's no rape culture. Like, it's a fucking thing, dude. If you don't know that, you're silly. You're a silly Billy if you don't know that that's a thing. So yeah, existentially, like, looking back on it as a 39-year-old man that had like romances and fun and adventures and spontaneity and everything, it was a fun life in a way, when I was younger. And I feel bad because younger people don't have any of this kind of stuff. Like, some do, right? But like way less. And the obsession that men have with a body count, like, that's just sad. Who gives a fuck? Like, I think if a man is really concerned with a woman's body count, I admit, like, I kind of assume that they have a tiny penis, or there is some sort of issue with that man being like, I don't want a woman to have seen many other naked men, because they're so, it kind of implies something about him as a person, because like, what are you so insecure about? I don't give a fuck what women's body counts are. It doesn't have, like, I'm not insecure about anything in that department. What else did I want to bring up? Yeah, so I do notice, I've seen, actually, this isn't a Gen Z thing. I was just thinking about I know a bunch of millennial women, and they're kind of right-wing women, and they have these really kind of, I would think, unrealistic standards for men. And they're aging, and they're not finding a partner, and a lot of them are developing like religious psychosis, basically. And as they're entering their late 30s, they're posting a lot of social media posts like, it's all about Jesus now, and how they know that Jesus has the right person for them, and they're just waiting, and it's all about God and all that. I'm like, this is just right. You're self-rationalizing and trying to make yourself feel better. Like, if you want a real boyfriend, you're gonna have to like put more work into it. And in this case, the standards they have, I like, there's very important, reasonable standards. Like, a woman should be like, you can't be a narcissistic asshole or I won't date you. But in another sense, like, this is a problem about Western constructs of love and romance and marriage and all that stuff. Like, what right-wing people are not taught is that really in evolution we've evolved to be serially monogamous, so that you can understand why. It's basically, we chemically bond with people we're having sex with, because nature wants this chemical bond to keep us together long enough to raise a child for at least 4 or 5 years, because then the child at that point can be more independent. But that chemical bond isn't necessarily a permanent thing, nor should it be. If you think about, like, in nature historically, lifespans were short, and it takes a village to raise a child. We're a communal species. Nuclear families are a very recent cultural construct. So people die young all the time. That's why, like today, like the church, for example, will encourage like 2 young 20-year-old people to marry. And then that's like a legal contract where they think that they're going to necessarily be in love like 50 years in the future or like for the rest of their lives. And because they're young, they don't actually even know how their own biology works, which affects their mind. Like, so they're just naive about it. But anyway, my point is this, like, a little known fact is that our evolution has made us most designed to be serial and monogamous. So like, that's another thing they talk about in this book, Tribe. Like, Native American people didn't have that concept that Europeans had of like contractual marriage. And I just love Native culture way better, because Natives are like, no, we just have sex with each other freely when we want. Remember, like, their bodies are physically stronger. They're better because they're hunters, basically, right? There's some agriculture, but like mostly, like, if you compare the average like European body coming over during colonial times with like the natives are just way more in nature physically, right? So for them, they're like, no, we don't need like marriage contracts. We just have sex when we want. It reduces stress and it feels good, and it's just a thing we do. And they don't they come together, and they use, like, when you actually study this, it looks like in like a lot of tribes, like Iroquois or whatever, like, people would usually be monogamous, especially when children were involved, for several years. But the norm was usually after about 5 years you move on, because people are doing stuff, and the men are like, they would come around the camp and like participate in the thing, but like, it's a completely different idea. So like, for me, like, I look back on, I have exes that I don't hate my exes. I'm very thankful for a lot of the experiences I've had with them. And also, think about this, for a man like me, like, when the more successful encounters you have when you're younger with women, and they're not like negative ones, or like, I wasn't paying for it, but it was like consensual, like, the girls that genuinely liked me, that I've been with, like, that provides a feedback loop for me that makes me really like these people. Like, I don't know, I guess I just have a weird view of, like, or not weird, like, more like a minority view, where I just really like women and respect them. And at my age, it's getting different, because I'm not, like, sex is not the primary driver of my life at all. I'm like, mentally I'm maturing, I'm in a different place. Like, like I say, like, I don't look my age, right? Like, I'm 39 years old. But I'm saying that, like, I'm glad that I did. I think that being born in 1986 was actually, like, it's like the Matrix. Like, that was peak civilization for a white guy to have a childhood in and a teen years in. And I went to college at the age of 18 for 2 years at Humber College in Toronto to study comedy writing. And that, for those 2 years of college, was right before Facebook was created. So imagine the adventures that we were having as young college kids at 19, like, getting drunk and doing comedy and mingling. And, do you remember when we used to dance and things arose from circumstance? Like, things were, like, usually, this is the thing today with Gen Z, like, because they don't go out and socialize, everything, they're all at home on their phones, and they have to swipe right a million times and talk for 3 months before they can meet up for a coffee date and all this other fucking bullshit. Like, I feel bad for them. When I was a lot of spontaneity happened from being. There were nights when I was younger, like 19, 20, I didn't really want to go out, and my friends would, like, and friends, right? Like, the culture's so different now. I get nostalgic as a millennial, right? Like, my friends, my buddies would show up at my fucking dorm room or my house and, like, drag me the fuck out when I didn't want to go out. And then, a couple hours later, you're at the bar and you're drinking, you're socializing with girls and stuff that you probably didn't expect to even be able to meet. And you're like, I'm really glad the guys drag me out here, and stuff just happens. And yeah, things you do stuff also that you feel regret, mistakes or whatever. That's part of life. But like you know, I've had ups and downs and good and bad. No, overall I liked it. I guess like I never really, when I was young in college though, I never really heard about, like it must have been happening, but it didn't become a public thing, and no girls ever told me like I was raped or like I was SA'd recently or anything like that. So in my consciousness back then, it wasn't a big problem. I'm sure it was happening. I knew it was happening here and there, but it wasn't like a common thing. I didn't know anyone personally that I thought was as like, none of my guy friends that I hung out with I ever knew of, or I don't think they ever SA'd anyone. But like there are other people that are everywhere. So anyway, today women are like that. Like I have female friends that will show me like the conversations they have with men on dating apps, or like I'm always hanging out with girls and they're telling me these anecdotes of these experiences, and it's like, wow, man, like really the way men talk to you and shit, like even men that walk by you on the street, like the stuff they say is super rude. And you know, I wouldn't even speak that way. It's really like aggressive and weird. Like I don't understand these young guys. They seem to have no social skills, no concept of how to talk to women. And they say really fucking weird, creepy, aggressive things and expect like women to like it. It's fucking weird. Let's see, what else did I want to mention in this video? I really like, this is just a video where I'm just saying I sympathize for the younger generations, because they're like, a lot of them they don't want, like, if it just like, sex is so fun and stress relieving and stuff, and it just sucks that like they've built a world for themselves where they're all kind of like cut off from it. Oh yeah, that's another thing I want to bring up. I also think that like I think that touch starvation is an actual biological thing. The more I learn about biology, behavioral biology, and these types of things, I realize that like we're not educated on this stuff. So it's like crazy when you find this out when you're older. Like the way our hormones and our pheromones work in our bodies is like we're meant, like being in a room alone and just talking to everybody through the internet is not the same as being in a room with them, because we're not exchanging like all these physical cues that we normally would that affect our biology. Probably another reason why men's testosterone is going down is because they're literally like not around women physically, like in the same room as much. This is one of my theories. But this brings up touch starvation. Normally, like in tribal life, like our ancestors used to sleep in a fucking ball, you know, like, and that's why I'm always saying watch Quest for Fire, like, you know, huddling together to share warmth and grooming each other, and like even, you know, like all of that stuff is important. You know, just another thing that popped into my head. You know, I talk a lot about Kerala in India, right? This is funny to me. Like Keralites didn't like, it wasn't common for women to wear a top until the 1950s, when the British started to force them to. So like in a lot of tribal settings, women just walk around all day freely with their breasts out. Like we live in a world where for a man to see like it's a big deal, right? Like women wear bras and shit and all this stuff. Like in real life, like you should like our ancestors were growing up, or just everyone in the community is mostly naked. You see them you see nudity all the time. Like the majority of human evolution, we didn't wear clothes. Just, you should, you know, think about that. So we live in such a repressed culture. Like European colonial white culture, especially Christian culture, is all about repression, right? Like repressing a lot of drives. And I just think all this is probably why men are getting fucked up. Like men are not entitled to women at all. So like when people ooh, like men are lonely, boo, it's like no one's like, it's not women's job to fuck lonely men, and they're not entitled to one. They have to earn one or attract one, or they don't get one. Welcome to nature. But then when they don't, like, I can understand why they get fucked up, because like they don't like they're all touch starved. They're fucking touch starved, and they don't have any. I think they hate women because no women have actively wanted to fuck them, which hasn't given them that positive feedback. So they're just bitter about it. This is literally what I think is driving like huge amounts of like angry men, which are going to the right. And to give you like a bigger thing on this, I think this is just literally like why we're seeing a return of Christian nationalism. It's direct. This is all a part of it. Christianity is basically a tool for getting subpar men who would normally not have a mate, to get them a mate. If you really think about it on the species level, Christianity is very dysgenic, because we evolved where the best kind of specimens of men were getting the women, and then they were like, literally we evolved into the apex predator beyond all the other primates, because women were choosy maters. And Christianity literally inverts that. It's so now instead of like, you know, 20%, the best 20% of men seeding all the women so that the stock is getting better, now we have all these average guys entitled to a woman it's kind of like made into a slave or whatever, and they reproduce. And so literally, from an evolutionary point of view, it has a dysgenic effect. It's natural selection should be driven by women's sexual selection preference. So interesting thing to think about. One final thought. Most of my guy friends who are like left-wing artsy guys actually have wives and girlfriends at this point. And a lot of the right-wing guys I know, friends, acquaintances, or whatever, are completely lonely. So this is definitely a reflection of both their personalities and just what they're like willing to work with and stuff. And they seem happier. My left-wing friends in general seem a lot happier than the guys I used to be friends with that are right-wing or conservative. And again, I think it comes down to sex, which I think is directly related to their attitudes towards women. And in general, I just feel bad for you. So I welcome any feedback from men or women on how they feel about the culture of sex right now. It's fascinating. So anyway, thanks guys. See you in the next video.